Good afternoon, everybody in the sports world, social media, Twitter, Facebook, IG, YouTube, wherever you're following us right now. Welcome to the Breakfast Bankroll, our midday sports market report on Friday. The weekend's here. Today, we are excited here at East Coast Sports. Special guest here, Nigel Seeley. You've seen him on VSiN regularly. The Pat McAfee Show. And today he has blessed us with his presence, and we're going to be talking Euro 2020, the matchups for starting tomorrow and through Tuesday. So without further ado, let's bring Nigel on.
Hello, Jeff.
Nigel, welcome. Thank you so much. How are you today?
I'm very well. Glad to be joining you. Glad to be on the East Coast Sports. So looking forward to a little chat today. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We have been friends now for a couple of years on social media, and just following your where you are today, where I met you, and just how big you have become. I talk about the Friday weekly visits with Paulie and Mitch on VSiN, talking football. As you can see, you can follow you on Twitter at Seeley_Nigel and the Prem Sports Plays. Talk to the listeners about the Prem Sports, what you offer, what you deliver, and how it's going overall.
Well, firstly, I don't really. I'm not being funny. I don't really know how well I'm received on in America. I mean, I'm very lucky to be able to be on these television shows that give me a fantastic platform to be able to talk about the sport and what I've done for many years over here. There's some kind of likability factor that the Americans have warmed into me on. I think what you're doing over there is very similar to what I've tried to do over here. I think that the industry we've come from has been quite a shady industry where a lot of people haven't had a good reputation and they don't have any transparency. I think with me, what you see is what you get. I'm a guy who will go for a few beers with you. I will go to watch a game, I'm not going to say we're going to win every play we've ever done, but we'll win more than we lose, and we'll have fun along the way. And that's what I've tried to do in my approach as a human being. And that's also what I've tried to do in my approach with Premier Sports Plays. I've tried to make it like a community like you do with East Coast Sports. We have podcasts, we have information, we have live TV shows like you're doing here. And, to say that I don't really understand the reaction stateside to me because of COVID, I haven't been able to go to visit. Last time I went to America was probably 19 months ago, and things started to be okay. And, there was a few people asking me questions, but in that night, in lockdown, things have sort of really got quite big for me. And obviously with VSiN and obviously with my connection on the Pat McAfee Show as well, things have really sort of exploded for me. So I think a lot of it's hard work, a lot of it's honesty, but I think it's just I'm very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And I feel that that there is, I'm no shyster. I'm not someone who's going to tell you you're going to make $1 million and charge you money. We're going to win, we're going to lose, but at the end of the year, we're going to make a very small percentage, and you may be able to take your kids on holiday. And we'll have fun along the way, and that's what I do. So with Premier Sports Plays, basically we offer tips on or handicapping service on soccer, tennis, and golf. I do the tennis and the soccer, which is my expertise, and I have some fantastic guys who do the golf for me, which has been very profitable this year, which has got me out of a bit of a sticky position really, because the soccer hasn't been that great. It's the first time I've ever handicapped during a pandemic, and it was bloody tough. Let me tell you, it was tough at the end of last year. But all things are turning around, and I'm just thankful for people like yourself and people to give me an opportunity to showcase what I do and let me talk on their network. So yeah, thanks very much for that.
And I love the way how you said it and how you approached it, because my first wager was 1975. I was in fifth grade, and the Red Sox were in the World Series versus the Cincinnati Reds, and I bet one of my roommates 50 cents, and I was off and running. I'll be 55 this year, so I have a lot of experience. As you said, the lanes that we travel is always been looked at, that word tout, that word shyster. And unfortunately, when ECSI went public January 1st, 2015, we could see that the United States was eventually going to allow wagering to become legal in the States. And I think we're up to 32 now, including DC. So as you know, on social media, they're a dime a dozen. Everyone pops up. Everyone's an expert. With COVID now, everyone's using Zoom, whatever platform they want to do to create a podcast to quote unquote try to corner the market, as we should say. And unfortunately, there's only handfuls like yourself that we're not scratch tickets. We're not, hand us 100 and we're going to turn it into 1,000. And I think that's the mentality a lot of people have, since they are paying for a service that works hard. Therefore, we're supposed to win every game, and it's just physically impossible.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The one thing I did find with the American market to the English market, the American market was a much tougher crowd. They wanted it. They wanted instant winners. They wanted instant reaction. If you went 0-3, suddenly you're the worst person in the world. If you went 3-0 and you were betting things at -$2, you were the way high fives. It's just variance. It's just one of these kind of things that happens. But the thing is, the one thing I try to educate most of the people on Premier Sports Plays is a staking plan, and a very strict staking plan. I have friends of mine who I've known for years and years who say to me, Nigel, what do you fancy? You got a tip on the tennis, or you got a tip on the football? I'll give them a tip. The tip will win. They'll have $100 on it, and then suddenly the next tip, you say, what do you fancy? I'll give them the next tip, and the next tip will lose, but they would have had $500 on it because they think you're a genius. And then they think excuse the language, but they think you're shit because you've given them one winner and they've lost $400. Stake management is the key in this business. Discipline and stake management. And what we try to do is we try to write an article, a balanced article that gives you a staking plan that you should stick to. And if you stick to the staking plan, you probably won't go wrong. But you need a decent bank to be able to do it. You need a 100-point bank. If it's one unit, I'd say one unit, say $50. You need you need $5,000 bank to be able to stick with it. But human nature is if you have a hot run and you win 4, then you're going to up your stakes on the next 3, and the next 3 you're going to lose. And that's not my problem. That's the person's problem, that they can't control what they want to do. So I find the American market a very tougher thing, and I also think that, like you say, people popping up, and I think the competition is much, in the space of 18 months that I've been doing in America, the competition is so big because a lot of people have seen opportunities and come across, and people have gone to one capper, to one tout, to one handicapper. But the problem is, I don't think anybody would have the longevity that I have and you have. So I think it's a very, very different thing. You can have a good run for a month or a good run for a year. If that guy goes on a losing run, he's gone. He's off Twitter. His account's changed, and he's making himself up as a new name in another account. Whereas with me, I'm still going to be here for 5 years. I'm still going to be doing 10 years. I'll be doing this. I would say till I'm bald, but I'm bald now. But I'll be still doing this for a long time. So I'm not going anywhere. So that is what people can't buy. Nobody can buy that experience and that reputation. And I think that in a murky world that we work in, having that reputation and having that sort of honesty, transparency. I mean, if anybody responds to me on Twitter or sends me a message, I'm responding with it within 2 minutes. It doesn't matter what time of day, because I value their time. And I think that's what sets you apart from anyone else doing what we do.
I 100% agree. And you talk about the staking. We do that on the golf end. We'll put together, let's say 2.5 to 3 units. I'll tell everyone to set aside. In a golf tournament, especially, everyone wants to run to the window and have that one golden ticket. And for instance, the major this past weekend, we were sitting there. There was 156 golfers, Nigel, that started. We released 15 golfers, so we weren't even at 10%. And the last 5 that we released is what we call scratch tickets. They were all over 100 to 1. So even a $10 investment on those was getting you at least $1,000. And we were sitting there rated that we were the bridesmaid. We had the runner up with Rom coming through. We couldn't get to the chalk. So we ended up peppering second, 2 fourths, 2 sevenths, and a 13th. But again, we didn't have that golden ticket. Therefore, again, some people will look at you and say, well, geez, you didn't have the winner. And that's the hardest part of this business.
Well, it's a tough game. I mean, I can just give you some examples to me. I mean, the US Open, we had 32 bets on the US Open. We staked 68 units. We won 83.32, won 15.32 with a 22% ROI on the US Open. We had 32 bets. Now, the trouble is that some people, the biggest problem I find is that the books that we offer here in America don't have the same books as we have. They don't have the same prices. They don't have the same markets. They don't have the same each way terms, which means that each way means you get if you're looking for a guy in the top 6 or top 7, you can get a quarter of the odds for him to win it over here. So if he's 50 to 1, you'd get 12.5 to 1 about him finishing the top 8. You don't get that in America. So I think there's a big problem. But I do feel that maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll have a global market that everyone will bet on the same globally. And I think the same books will run on a global market. That's how I envisage sports gaming going. But with regards to the French Open, for example, I had a bad French Open tennis. Tennis is probably my best sport. I would consider. I had a bad French Open, but it all come down to I bet Tsitsipas to win it, and he was 2 sets to love up against Djokovic in the final and lost. That was the tournament. If he had won the tournament, we would have won. But if he lost in the final, we lost. But you can't compensate for people that are in 2 sets to love up in the final. During play was a -$3 favourite, but nobody remembers that. No one will remember that. They'll only remember that they lost the bet. They won't think that it's true. Which over here, bettors are a bit more pragmatic. They will look at it and think, okay, you're giving us a golfer at 66 to 1. He was leading and he shot 5 over and finished 8th. We'll give that guy another go. He's quite good. In America, I don't think you get many chances. I think you've got to get the ticket. You've got to get the winner. And it's a very different crowd.
Talked about Cespedes, and this will be a perfect lead in here. We had him plus 525 before the tournament started. I talked to our clients at length going into the final against Joker. I think Joker was -$3. Excuse me. Do you suggest or do you yourself do any in-gaming? In other words, as you said, Joker was down 2-0. Therefore, when Joker was -300 and you're holding the Cespedes ticket, it's hard to even get a hedge there because Joker was such a favorite. Do you suggest to your clients to follow the in-game, or it is what it is?
Well, my first of all is that having done this for a long time, I've watched so much sport and gone through so many emotions, put on a lot of weight, lost a lot of hair, gone through a lot of stress, gone through a couple of marriages. I don't need the stress of watching the game for 5.5 hours to see if I cash the ticket. If you need the money and you want to play and you need that $100 and you can cash out and take a $20 hit, win either way. It's certainly for you. But for me, I don't want to put myself through because the emotion of a 4.5 hour, 5-set tennis match, 1 minute you think you're going to win and it's the timing. It's making sure you're timing. I'm not a trader by trade. Most people who trade in running and most people who trade sports are people who don't have an opinion of the sport. So my opinion is always going to be obscured. If I thought Tsitsipas was value to win the match, if he's 2 sets to love up, then I would make him more value. I don't see hedging. If I know nothing about sport and someone said to me, "I'll bet this game," and that guy's in a winning position, I can turn it into $50. Then that's different. But I think that if you actually think a guy was a bet originally, or you think a football team were a bet originally, if they're 1-0 down, the likelihood, or they're 1-0 up, the likelihood is you should go in again. You should press. I think you give too much value away by taking a profit. I think if you cash out, the cash out system in the UK, which is coming into America now, where you can instantly get is very heavily weighted on percentage in the bookmaker. And I think you give too much margin away by cashing out. I think if you're in it, you're in it. That's always been my philosophy. There's times in life when I've had no money and I've been absolutely potless, and I've bet someone at 50-1 who's in the final for $200, and I've cashed out because I needed that $2,000. That's a different situation. But if you can afford it and you don't think there's any value, let it run all day long.
And I agree, because we'll talk. We'll do the pre-flops, and then or the futures in series, NBA, NHL, whatever it is. And you're correct. I always throw the ball onto their plate. I say, hey, listen, there is an easy hedge here. If you want to at least cover your initial wager, it's up to you. Lots of times on Sundays, Nigel, what we'll do is we're grading the week for the first 6 days. Say we're up 5.28 units. I'll tell them to put the 5 units aside, and we'll play the 0.28 on what we call as an action parlay. A chance to hit a 6 to 8 to 1, give everyone some action on that Sunday. And then what will happen is if you get the first 2 home, again, there's an opportunity to flip it. It's the 8 o'clock game. If you want to cover that wager, fine. If you want to collect 1.5 units, that's fine. But I think giving them the opportunity and at least seeing them so they can see the light in both sides, versus the guys now, especially you follow on social media, that will put out 25 games and they'll see right away 10 of them are the wrong side, and they'll be tweeting every 2 seconds, gut live in game, gut live in game, gut live in game, to cover their quote unquote losses halfway through the game. And that's just a bookie's dream, because the more you risk, the more chance they have to get their money.
Yeah, I agree on that. But the slightly different thing for me is that obviously with the people that I have on Premier Sports Plays, there's so many different time distances around the world. So, for example, if I gave an in-play bet to however many people I have in the group, a large percentage of them wouldn't see it for time differences. And that looks derogatory on me. It looks like I'm chasing winners. I'm chasing results. I'm chasing, I have to write everything I do 2 days before. And that was the big problem during COVID. I would be writing bets on the Wednesday for Thursday because of the time difference in America. And by Saturday, the team that I've bet have lost 4 players because of COVID. And I can't go back and tell them to get out because we're effectively in. So what I tend to do, if I watch a tennis match and I see something live, I put it on Twitter and say, it's in play, this guy's a bet, or that woman's a bet. And that doesn't contradict or go against anybody that is actually subscribing to my service. But a lot of people complain and say, well, why are you doing that? Well, I say, well, if I put it into the group, some of you be at work, some of you be out driving, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. So you're in a no-win position. So I tend to leave in-play betting. If I'm sitting around watching a game and have an opinion on it, not before the match and see a game unfold, I might have a bet in play. But once I have my position on any football match or any tennis match, I tend to stick with that opinion, regardless of what happens.
100% agree. All right, so your cup of tea here. We got the Euro 2020 starting up Saturday through Tuesday. I have all the odds and basically from Circa Sports. I think the easiest thing for me is just to turn it over to you. You see some edges, you see some thought process, any games that you'd like to break down and help all the viewers and people getting ready for this weekend.
Well, I mean, if you're new to soccer betting, the first thing you've got to look at is obviously there's a couple of rules. We're in knockout stages now, this tournament. So the bets you're having, we graded after 90 minutes. That's a very important thing. A lot of people in America don't understand the rules of betting on soccer. So if you're betting on England to beat Germany, for example, and they win in extra time or they win on penalties, your match is a loser because the bet is graded at 90 minutes, the 90-minute result, which wasn't the case in the first group stages. So that's one thing to remember. The other thing you got to look at is draw. If you look at the left-hand side of the draw, look at those teams: Belgium, Portugal, Italy, France, Spain. That's strong. That's loaded. That's like a tennis draw with Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal on one side. The other side is weak. England, Germany, Denmark, Holland. They're in there. If you look at Belgium, Portugal, Italy, France, and Spain, they would all be favourites against any of the sides on the right-hand side of the draw in a one-off match. So the draw is heavily loaded on the left-hand side of your screen there. The value and the betting is on the right-hand side. Now, England and Germany, the winners of that, would think that we've got a great chance of getting to a final. But the German team, this is not the best German side we've seen for a long time. Defensively, they're very weak. Offensively, they're okay, but their strongest point is their midfield. But defensively, they give away too many goals. I mean, they conceded 2 goals against Hungary. They conceded 4 goals against Portugal. 2 goals against Portugal. That's not German type of football. The English side is inexperienced and isn't playing well, and I don't think you can just turn that on like a tap. I think you've got to have some momentum coming into this knockout stages. So they're the market leaders, but they're vulnerable. Holland, a very, very poor manager, Frank de Boer, managed in the Premier League for Crystal Palace, but lasted 5 games, atrocious. So I think tactically he's got question marks about. And there's 2 teams on that right-hand side that I think offer value. I think Sweden at 125 to 1 could surprise. I think very hard to beat, very strong defensively. Got probably the best one of the young players in the tournament. The best one is their forward. And Denmark. I think that what's happened with them as a nation in the first game since when Christian Eriksen was tragically had his cardiac arrest on the pitch, I think they're become everybody's favourite second team. And I think Denmark are real lively contenders. I think they'll beat Wales. They're more than capable of beating Netherlands or Czech Republic, and then they're in the semi-final. And I think Denmark, they've been galvanised by what happened to them. I mean, how they've managed to turn a tragedy into a positive, and the whole country is behind them. The other thing with Denmark, tomorrow they're playing Wales, and they're playing in Amsterdam. No travellers from Wales are allowed into Holland. It's because of COVID, because with the new variant we have over here. So we aren't allowed, no Welsh supporter will be in attendance for that game. And from Denmark to Holland, it's about an 8-hour drive. And Denmark will have probably 30,000 fans in there to 0 fans from Wales. So I think Denmark will beat Wales tomorrow. They're about, I think over here, they're minus 110. I think they're a little bit shorter in America, probably minus 120 or something like that. But I think Denmark will beat Wales. And I think Denmark could be the team that you might want to bet. I think whoever comes on that group, that side of the draw, will be the massive underdogs in the final. But you're in a final, and anything can happen in the final. And around about 20 to 1 Denmark, 25 to 1 Denmark to win it, and 100 to 1, 125 to 1 Sweden would be my advice to you now. Because I think the fashionable clubs like England, Germany, I think they're vulnerable. And I just think it will get to the stage where we get to a semi-final where the occasion will be too much for these young players. We haven't won anything in this country since 1966 in football. The country will come to a stop. The expectation on these young lads will be too much. I don't think they're better handle it. Whereas I think Denmark definitely be able to handle it.
So for people that have not got any before the tournament started, any stake in the game, and now they're listening, or they see the lineups for the weekends, and it's like you said, it's the first 90 minutes, give or take any extra time, and that's why the draws are in here as well. You talked about the right side. How would you suggest someone to go about this? Would you look at just individual games as you talked about with Denmark and Sweden, or would you look for them, to try to get a price on them to quote unquote win it and then try to get to the finals?
I think Denmark and Sweden to win the tournament now would be value. Denmark, you get about 25-1. Sweden, you get 100-1. I think Sweden will beat Ukraine. They'll go into the quarterfinals. Last 8, you're holding 100-1 ticket, about only 8 teams in it. There'll probably be 33s in the last 8 if they win that game. Denmark will be 20-1. If they win their game against Wales, they'll be 10-1. So I think that they would be my best picks now. I'm not saying massive picks. I mean, I before the tournament, I've bet France and Spain. They're my 2 sides. But the way the draw has worked out, I think there's value in that other half of the draw to get to the final. And I think you can get some good value. And I don't think England and Germany are the price they should be. I think they're far too low because of history and because of weight of money. And I think Sweden and Denmark are definitely the 2 bets. With regards to the matches, I'll run you through some matches. I think if we start tomorrow, Denmark against Wales, I think Denmark will beat Wales. Like I say, -110 over here. I can't see that being -110 at the start. No fans for Wales in the stadium. I think Denmark will win. You could probably bet Denmark to win, but I would probably recommend you just take the 25-1 on them to win the tournament, and then you've got the tickets half the price if they win that game. Italy against Austria, that's at Wembley. Italy on form have been the best team in the tournament. Austria, very, very poor in my opinion. One of the worst. I think they're the worst side left in it. The Italians have won their last 12 matches and won every single one of them without conceding. They haven't let a goal in, so they've won all their last 12 matches to win to nil. And it's a bet I love over here. You can bet teams to win to nil. So if they win 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, as long as they win and the opposing team doesn't score, that's +130 over here, Italy to win to nil. I think that's a fantastic bet. But if you can't get that with your book, I'd probably bet I'll probably Dutch Italy 1-0 and Italy 2-0. I think I just can't see the Italians not losing that game. Sweden, I like Sweden. Belgium, Portugal, probably one of the most difficult games in the tournament to call so far. Could be an absolute classic, that game. Belgium offensively full of talent. Lukaku, Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne. And Portugal are probably the best player in the world in Cristiano Ronaldo, who's got 5 goals in this competition. If he scores 1 more goal, he becomes the highest international football goal scorer in history. So for a man who prides himself on setting records and making history, I think he's going to be pumped up for this game. And I think that'll be goals. I think over 2.5 goals, Belgium, Portugal, or maybe even both teams to score. I think that could be an entertaining game. France v Switzerland. I think the French have got their playing around in first gear at the moment. They have at least 5 more gears to go into. They can up it whenever they want. I think they'll comfortably come through 1-2-0 without even breaking sweat. Spain, Croatia. I think Spain have had more goal opportunities and more possession than any other team in this competition. Croatia, for me, are an old side. They're probably average age is one of the oldest left in the competition. And in the heat and without having the ball, I think Spain will wear them down. So I think that potentially could be a close first half. If you're looking at in play, a very close first half could be 0-0 at half time. But in the second half, I think that the Spanish with the younger team in the heat will come through and beat them. Netherlands against Czech Republic, I would fancy the Netherlands to be too strong for the Czech Republic. I thought the Czech Republic in this competition have been very, very poor. They were dreadful against England. They won 1-0, but they offered nothing. They were totally outplayed on possession and goal scoring opportunities on goal XG against Scotland, and they won 2-0 with a fantastic goal. One of the players scored from the halfway line. So I think they've been very fortunate with their results so far. So I'd expect that the Netherlands to win that. And I've left the best one till last, England v Germany. I think England are deserved favourites for it. I think England are a better side. I think they have the better players. I think they have the more off the bench they can change the game. But the occasion usually beats England. So many games over the years that we've got into as favourites, we haven't performed, or we've lost on penalties, or and the Germans are just our side that we can never really beat at major tournaments. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the game become a very a pick and match, like a 50-50 split between the two. Currently, England the marginal favourites. But the one thing I would say on this game is that I think the way both teams are set up, the English side offensively are fantastic with their flair and their speed. We haven't seen a lot of it this tournament, but they will come good because they're two good players. And I think the Germany are exactly the same. So I think this will be a very entertaining game. And I think goals. I think for an Englishman, I can't back Germany for obvious reasons. And also I don't want to back England because I don't want to have the double disappointment of England losing and me losing my money. So I think from a neutral point of view, both teams to score, yes, and over 2.5 goals. I think that game will be a real barnstormer, end-to-end football match.
And if I am correct, A, you'll be at that game, and B, you'll be your birthday?
My birthday's Monday, but
okay.
The game's on Tuesday. But the Queen over here has 2 birthdays, and so seeing as England are playing, I'm going to extend my birthday for 2 days to the Tuesday as well.
Nigel, closing thoughts for Prem Sports, for Nigel, the rest of 2021 football. Any closing thoughts for the people listening here? Again, we have where they can follow you on Twitter, and obviously look them up on premsportsplays.com. It's your stage. Close it out, brother.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. You can always message me. I think for Prem Sports Plays this year, we've never had a losing season, Jeff. Never lost on anything we've ever done. And we've only been going for 3 years, I know, but we've had, this year we've had 830 bets already this year on all the sports we do. But I feel last year we were really behind the 8 ball with COVID. With the team injuries and news we were having just didn't go our way. And at Christmas time last year, we were 100 units down on soccer. And we won it all back and more. And that to me, a lot of people said that they give up. A lot of people said that they didn't, they ran out of money or they ran out of their cash flow. But for me, that showed that the process worked because we come through the toughest time. We come through the most difficult time where I was questioning every bet I had. It was the most difficult time of my personal life in terms of a bettor and also as a handicapper. And I showed that it worked. And to do that gave me more achievement than winning the 150 units the year before, which was odd, really, but that's what it did. But now things will come back to normal. Now fans will be allowed in stadiums, and now normality will turn to us as well. So we'll go back to the winning race. And the one thing that I would say that I feel that my strongest point is, and my strongest point always has been, is my futures. I study the lower leagues in England very, very strongly. I have a lot of connections with managers and players and people who work in clubs. I know who's coming in, who's going out. I know the budgets of the teams. And I feel that if anybody wanted to get involved in Premier Sports Plays, the valuable time to get involved financially would be on the futures, because the futures make us more money. The season, we go up and down, weeks, and it's a roller coaster ride. Wrap yourself in. We're going to go on the roller coaster. But the futures, where we make all our money, and that will happen again. But Premier Sports Plays was tough last year. But when other people would have gone missing, and other people that you had seen on those handicaps, if they went 100 on Twitter, and other handicappers on Twitter, if they got 100 units down or 100 points down, I guarantee you they wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you now.
1,000% correct. And that's why we flock to people like yourself, the guys that, the names and faces don't change. We don't hide. The 100% transparency. And moving forward, this is what's going to, hopefully not just separate, people like ourselves, but, change that tarnished look. I hate the word tout, with the stock market, cryptocurrency. I look at ourselves as sports brokers. If you go to put $5,000 into the stock market and they tell you to come back 3 months later and you're down 10%, and then you're going to look at them. So your portfolio goes from 5,000 to 4,500. You ask that man, well, what do you want me to do? And he goes, nothing, just come back in 3 months. We're here. We're in the fire every day. We're not going anywhere. I think we have stand the test of time. And that story that you closed with is just absolutely amazing. And because I know what you're talking about. I know the fact that, this week we're 7-3-1. Okay. But the only thing that they remember is the fact that we lost yesterday. They don't remember the 2-0-1 the day before, or the 1-0 the day before that. It's instant gratification, but you're providing a service. You're putting a name with the face. You're there to answer direct messages, emails. Like you said, 2 minutes later, boom, you're there. And that's what it's all about. And, here we can't thank you enough. I'm so glad that we finally connected. I look forward to following the Euro 2020 this weekend and into next week. Wish you a very, very happy birthday in advance. Enjoy the game on Tuesday. We'll be following you and wishing you nothing but the best of luck, Nigel.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks very much for having me, and good luck with East Coast Sports. And I hope we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.